The course is World History of Architecture 1. It's not a new course, but it's the first in the series. And as you can see, this is a 4-credit course because the main idea behind is that we're trying as a policy or as a general approach to integrate design into the theory courses, and history of architecture is one of which in this series. So it is definitely within the axis or the track of history and theory. Synopsis, I will, it's big, it's larger than this one, but I will go pretty thoroughly through it. Basically, usually history is associated with the notion of time, past, present, and future, but in this course we are deviating from it, from the chronological thing, and we are aiming at the thematic categorization of the historical facts, artifacts, excuse me. So the study of history is not aimed for the knowledge of the past or as a narration of the history of architecture, nor that of the architects themselves, but rather as an insightful look at a comparative analysis of the various factors and forces that has led to a certain specific solution called type. So I'll go to those lines. Basically, revisiting historical precedents, why we go through all of these precedents, it wishes to decipher, assess, and experiment the raison d'etre of architectural production looked at through a contemporary eye. And this is very important, and I use it so often during the course, where you link the present with the past or with all the monuments. So with an attempt to read, analyze, and represent it using the language of architecture, and through which they are learning to represent those precedents while trying to draw plans, sections, diagrams, and 3D conceptual models. And here I would like to stop at this because this is the first time in this course we're having really first year students, meaning that they are the first semester for them in the course. Although they have performed relatively well, and you can see sometimes they are better than the second years, for example, at some skills, but also it was hindering at some others because they lacked some tools of expression or of reading history. Yet I tried really to make up for that. So this is course outline, which we deviated like 3 times from the initial one, actually, and we were unfortunately left with the I'm dividing it into 3 modules: the House of God, the House of Dead, and the House of Men. We were really left with very few lectures with the House of Men due to different reasons throughout the course. Basically, because the first one took more than expected for. Although the general performance of the student was good, but I had to introduce few lectures, like how to do diagrams, like how to read buildings, etc., to make up for what I have already explained. So basically, it targets 3 CLOs and 4 NAB skills. The professional communication skill, I will not really go through each one. Design thinking skills, investigative skills, and history and culture, where the knowledge of so many historical artifacts. And here this is more detailed if needed, or maybe I'll come to it later on. So basically it was 22 lectures, 9 assignments, 2 projects, and 1 exam. And again, this is after how it was delivered, because actually it was not planned as such. I was having 2 exams, more major projects, which I had to really change, simply because the lack of material they can buy, the inability to access the workshop because of the lockdown where the project was meant to submit, as well because the machine of the laser cutter was not functioning as I was told, and I was checking with Dahi, who was responsible for it in the school. This is what we call the pyramid, and I'm also trying to have the edges of the pyramid at least. So basically, and the important shift was in the recorded lectures, actually. It was, and I will speak about it a little bit later on, it was almost fully asynchronous. I went fully with the recorded lectures, and they were really very good. At the beginning, I had some hiccups with these because not everybody was really watching all the videos on time, and because the online leaves the student on their own, and they are not, especially as first and second years, they are not really good managers of time. So I had to help them in this, meaning that I was putting some exams during the lectures, and this was really successful by the end of the semester, and it helped them to acquire lexicons. So the lecture were not really myself only speaking. They were a module of 15 minutes every lecture, recorded via stream. And during which they were having pose of questions. So they had to reflect as if I'm in class and I'm asking them. So it was sort of interactive, although it was asynchronous. They were often assigned a reading. I couldn't really base myself a lot on reading. Basically, it was some sort of research. When they do research about the building, etc., this is the only part where they were doing some kind of reading. There were no really articles and so. The audiovisuals, they were often advised or assigned some videos with questions as well from YouTube or from other BBC channels, etc., to watch, especially about their to enhance their general knowledge on art or on general historical dimensions. Demonstrations, well, basically they were considering how we do diagrams, how we understand building, how we read things, etc. Something interesting as well was devised during this course was the Padlet platform, like the Edpuzzle as well, where this was the only mean for us to do a discussion, sort of. So I used to post something on Padlet, and they were, I mean, they put like for each other, they could talk to each other, and I come anytime I want, and I see what they like about this project, how they comment on it, etc. So it was really kind of creating some liveliness, which we missed during the class. Practice by doing, yes, doing exercises, but as I said, I basically the course or the design part was especially for History 1. It was for them to understand architecture through the spatial composition or understanding spatial quality. And this should come really through models, how you feel the spaces and understand. I made up for it in different types of exercises. And this is how they learn from each other through the Padlet and the comments. A matching grading assessment to CLOs. So actually, these are basically in pink or sort of pink. I'm having the comprehensive part in the course. Sorry, I have this 3 times. There's a mistake in here. It should be 1. And here I have the notion of learning by doing, and there is the part of designing exercises. So you can see like their part. I cannot say really their part because this is as well my part and their part. I was delivering information, and there were automatic questions with them, and I will show you some samples of these. So basically the communication skills to talk, lexicons, etc., and knowledge of monuments, artifacts, etc. It was basically based on this part. The analytical skills was mostly as they do exercises and as they design some projects. Okay. The grade report, and these are the divisions per CLO. And you can see basically this part was getting the lowest, the 67, although the passing grade is 60, but this is very unsatisfactory, where we have the diagramming part, especially in this section, ability to analyze and understand artifacts and represent in diagrams. So this part, and I really advise, and this is said in the recommendations, to work furthermore on this aspect, on this actually. But in general, you see the communication is really good. In general, the A1 had the highest CLOs. Again, as well, be able to observe and to acquire this inquisitive eye, to ask, to be interested, and to look at things beyond what we know as well was really good. While in the investigative skill, history and culture, they don't memorize a lot. They don't like to really know the name of the buildings, etc. They identify, but they don't really put an effort on this. They're too lazy maybe for that. And this is another way of putting the whole class average, how I'm dividing it, not by CLOs, but by category. Designing, I had the average in here, basically, it should be here. But we were talking about something high 70s, and in here we're having as well something like in the mid 70s, and in the exams it was good, and I will tell you why it was good rather than usually in previous cases I always had in exams very low participations. Here, the exams, they were online, and I'm not saying because they were cheating. One exam we had it at university, but the others were online, but they were somehow live, meaning that they cannot really cheat and they cannot skip the questions. And the questions were rather comprehensive, not to memorize, and so, or maybe to go and Google. So it was like an open exam, and they were doing good because they had the time maybe to go back to the question and relook at it again. So these are the averages by CLOs. We're not seeing really great differences in between. They are almost within the same ranges. Usually, I used to have different kind of performance actually in the common average of the students, and you see the performance of the students as well. We are varying between the mid-60s and very few two cases higher than 80, but most of the class was within this with low 70. This is the class average diagram, the average of the whole class. Not really high deviations. And these are the average per assignments.
And sorry, you still have 3 minutes, okay?
Well, attendance report, I'm not having any graphs or any follow-up on this because, as I said, I was delivering the sessions and they had to buy, let's say, a certain specific time to deliver all the to watch it and to have the attendance on it. So this is what I think the achieved CLOs, they were okay, and in here this is I spoke about, and these two, they were partially satisfactory. So the course, which is non-Eurocentric, non-chronological, it was divided into those three categories: Domus Dei, Domus Mortuum, and Domus Est, House of Man, House of God, etc. And these are the varied, and here I'm looking the same theme. Sometimes we look at it across different periods, different geographies, different times, and they were trying to read the link or the commonalities across time and geographies. So this is basically, I will go quickly through all of these. Here the role of the student, my role, and this is basically how it was divided. So what I wanted initially was mens et manus, the motto of the course, where you learn by doing, the hand and the intellect brought together through models, etc. Again, I say due to so many reasons, with the lockdown, with the economic situation, especially that they were supposed to do huge model where you can really assess the spatial quality, light, etc. So these are samples of their doing, and every session they were having this kind of links that you just link to it and you go into the recorded session. So these are the different projects that were within every category. I will show you some samples of each. Where doing was really a huge part of the exercises. So this is, for example, a certain lecture. This is how they get into it. They have the different sessions or recorded lectures for it. Even when I record something here, this is taking a screenshot, and you have the translation automatic to it. So even in English, although sometimes it translates in a funny way, but they were acquiring as well how the words, the wording, they are capturing it, they are learning it. And this is how it comes. So whenever I'm delivering a lecture, meanwhile, it stops, you cannot go any further, and you have a question that you need to really answer. Like here, what is the main approach to making architecture? Is it additive? Is it subtractive? What kind, or is it both, let's say, etc. And sometimes I give questions that proves to me how they have watched the previous lectures. Like I say, this should remind you of something that we have talked about. What is it? How do you remember it? So this is how I know if they are really following or how, etc. And they were supposed sometimes to deliver some drawings even or sketches for these. Sometimes I had the multiple choice questions as well as types of questions. At the beginning of the semester, we had the opportunity to go through model making, and they were trying to understand really the difficulties and what does it mean to build something, to have post and lintel, let's say, and how was it achievable through such type of material, the type of connections, at least to question, let's say. And they were supposed to do researches on the golden rectangle, the Greek orders, and try to change some buildings to see how they can fit within, let's say, the golden ratio, to analyze, this is the water temple by Tadao Ando, and how they can do some naive or maybe beginning to do some diagrams. And these are early, here they were supposed to design for a House of the Dead before I mean, learning a lot about these, and then to question and challenge their conceptions about symmetries, and sometimes they do some collages. Here they research about some buildings and try to use it as a precedent in what they want to do for today.
Sorry, time is up if you want to.
Okay, خلاص, I will run through the examples quickly. Here they were just one thing, it was the scale. This is something I often like to do, where they take a very famous monument and try to plug it in to understand the scale of buildings, how they would be in their own city, clashing two monuments with each other and try to see relationships. Maybe if they remove some elements, like here they are removing the minarets, these to raise really more questions. And as well here, this is the map that they have made for all the monuments across most of what we have taken in the course, where they are located, because this is very important to understand all of these. Researchers, I'm sorry, I'm taking more than I'm supposed to do. And actually this, I invite you to go and look at this. They have also done a movie collecting material, taking some material from the library of Revit, I think. I don't remember the software. And they have made a short movie about the Pantheon as a presentation for it. And it has so far 9 views only. And designing the tomb, like you are the architect of the pharaoh, use some precedents and try to design it as a home. Some people wanted to say, keeping the axiality, etc. Excuse me for taking so much time. The recommendations, these are examples of their work. And then finally, the recommendations. One of the recommendations is maybe to go really fully online and to offer this course to the general public, maybe. Yes, there were deviations here. I'm speaking about the deviations from the course outline. Okay, so recommendation is to proceed with the asynchronous lectures. It was really a success. Students were always giving positive comments about these, but I really would consider to go to the general public as well. Maybe we can open this course to be not only for our students. I will not really put any more midterm exams, but focus on the weekly or bi-weekly comprehensive tests. And that's it. Thank you so much.